Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we watched one of the craziest editions of Paris-Roubaix in like forever. I've seen quite a few editions of this race and probably none have been as spectacular as this one. None have been with so much action. I did 2 full sheets of paper of notes for this race. Like in some stages in the Grand Tours you could finish the report with 2 lines: who was in the breakaway of the day and who were the top 3 finishers, and you have all the information you need for the stage. But today it was quite a different story. I have not seen a race that crazy with that many attacks, even attacks of favorites that early into a race. And we're talking about a monument here. We're talking about a race that has 260 kilometers almost in length, and we had no breakaway of the day because everyone who tried his luck was just reeled in very quickly. Nobody got a gap of 30 seconds until, let me lie about it, I think the first group to actually get a gap of more than 30 seconds was inside the last 50 kilometers. I'm not even joking. I have it documented right here, but on the top of my head, that is how it went down, and the race was absolutely crazy. But let's start from the beginning. We had one non-starter in this race who was ill, had a fever, could not take the start. That was Fernando Gaviria, who was set to make his debut in his so-called favorite race. He has only seen this race on television so far in his life. We'll have to see if he still thinks it is his favorite race when he really will enter it in the future. So far, before he was at the Koenig Quickstep, they have too many stars to just give any rider a spot. And now at UAE, he was supposed to be co-captain with Alexander Kristoff and could again not take the start line this time because of illness. But yeah, the flurry of attacks began right from the get-go. That is what you would expect in a monument. A lot of teams want to have one guy at least in the breakaway, get exposure on TV, be seen with a sponsor logo on your back and stuff like that. Completely normal. But the fact that every move is shut down by the peloton in a monument of 260 kilometers, that is very rare to see. But today that was because even the favorites tried their luck. The first one to get a gap of about 20 to 30 seconds was Grutstev. He was then joined by Kemna, got back into the peloton after a few kilometers in the lead. Then we had an attack of Magnus Kort, but unfortunately for him, he was joined by Florian Seneschal, and the peloton decided, we won't let a guy of the Koenig get into the breakaway. That's bad news for us. So he was absorbed back into the peloton. Then it was Mats Pedersen who attacked. He took Marco Marcato with him. But again, the peloton thought these 2 guys are too dangerous, especially Mats Pedersen. Also, this group did not get a gap of over 30 seconds. Same went for Mats Würz, Kaspar Pedersen and Jürgen Rolands, who then attacked, but never more than 20 to 30 seconds for them. And this game continued to the point of 160 kilometers to go. So for 100 kilometers, we had attack over attack over attack, and no one got a gap of more than 30 seconds at that point. And then we had the moment where the peloton shattered. We had a group of 9 riders in the front, chased by a group of 17 riders. And these 17 riders with 160 kilometers to go included guys like Matteo Trentin, Yves Lampard, Niels Pollitt, Matti Bresche. We had also Van Poppel, Adrien Petit or C.S. Bol in that group. So quite some dangerous guys, and they went for it. They went really hard, and they actually created a gap between them and the rest of the peloton. Again, not more than 30 seconds, but the peloton had to chase hard because the group of favorites, or a few select favorites, were also riding pretty hard at that moment into the race. With 154 kilometers, the two groups of 9 and 17 merged together. We had one big breakaway. And then with 140 kilometers to go, we had actually the first of later two punctures for Alexander Kristoff, who lost more than 2 minutes until that point. And that meant that the race was basically over for UAE because Gaviria could not start and Kristoff did lose 2 minutes with 140 kilometers to go, was not able to get back in. Race basically done for this team before it really started. So yeah, then we are at a moment on my note sheet, 120 kilometers to go. The group in front is caught by the peloton, which by that point was only 80 riders strong. 80 riders at 120 kilometers still to go. That is just unbelievable. And it went even further because then again Sénéchal attacked. And subsequently he was absorbed back into the peloton. But because they had to ride so hard to actually reel him in, the peloton was once again cut in half. So with more than 100 kilometers to go in this race, we only had 40 guys left fighting for the victory. That is just unbelievable stuff. Like, we were not even on the Arenberg, which is 90 kilometers from the finish line. And still only 40 riders in the lead. We had then, shortly before the Arenberg, we had a few crashes, namely Helio Kaiser. He went down, seemed like a broken collarbone. He got taken to the hospital. We also had a crash of Mohoric, but he got back on after a bike change. And then it was actually time for this legendary forest. We had Stein Vandenberg who attacked. He went off the front, while at the same moment Wout van Aert had a puncture. Peter Sagan barely evaded him, almost crashed into him, but you saw what a great bike handler Peter Sagan is. And that meant Wout van Aert had to chase this peloton of 35 to 40 riders. And just in the moment when he did that, just when he caught them, he crashed again. Had to change his bike and chase again. He did, and he did come back into the group of favorites of the peloton, when you want to call it that way. But all in all, the two times combined, he was chasing for a little bit under 20 kilometers. And I was wondering if that would take its toll on him later on in the race, because he surely would have to pay for such an effort of chasing alone for 20 kilometers when the others are sheltered by teammates. He was riding in the wind. He had to make up ground. But he was back in for that moment, and you never know. But like I said, Stein Vandenberg attacked on the Arenberg, got a gap, was alone in the lead, and he thought to himself, I thought I would have some company here. It's pretty lonely up here at the front. So he set up, did not want to continue a breakaway of 90 kilometers to go. Probably a wise move, because 90 kilometers is quite a way to the finish line. Then we heard a little bit after the Arenberg that Benoit crashed out of this race. He crashed into the team car of Jumbo-Visma. Really bad spring campaign for Thierry Benoit of Lotto Soudal, because this is already his second crash. He was down shortly before the start of Strade Bianche, got back fit to race that it, but after that he was not in the best kind of shape, not in the best form, and he was slowly but surely getting there. But today again, a hard crash. He said later on he's okay, but in hospital. We'll have to see what he can do for the rest of the season. I had high hopes for him. Even drafted him in one of my fantasy teams for this year, because I thought he could do even better than he did already last year. But yeah, that was not the case because, like I said, two crashes and subsequently lost his form and his spring objectives. He did not achieve them this year. But yeah, we were now at a point with still 72 kilometers to go. We had that group of only 40 riders in the front, and it was actually at that moment we had Wesley Crater who attacked. He got a gap, was alone for a little bit, but then we had an attack with 67 kilometers to go, and that is an important one because it was inside the feed zone, a thing you usually don't see. Riders usually don't do that, attacking inside the feed zone. But German rider Niels Pollitt tried his luck, went, and shortly afterwards was joined by Rüdiger Selig and also Philippe Gilbert. They caught Wesley Crater, so there were four guys in the lead, but Crater was shortly afterwards dropped, and after that they also dropped Selig, so only two riders in the lead. Those were Pollitt and Gilbert, and that was quite the move because even though we had still over 60 kilometers to go at that point, you were wondering, the other teams now have to chase because Pollitt has shown this year and last year that he can ride on cobblestones. Gilbert already won the Tour of Flanders and was again on the podium on that race. So both are dangerous guys. Someone has to chase them down. And it was actually Track and Education First who took the duty on the front in the group of favorites. And with 60 kilometers to go, it was actually Narsen himself who went on the front because Stein Vandenberg at that moment had to take a breather. He was working hard also in that group. But yeah, 53 kilometers to go. That was actually the moment that I mentioned before. Selig got dropped out of the leading group, so now there were only two riders in the front. But exactly at that moment when Selig was dropped, we had an attack of Sagan, Van Aert, Van Marke, Lampard, Laporte, Ivan Garcia, and Marc Sarrault. These guys left the group of favorites behind them, and now I am finally done with my first sheet of paper. So we're only halfway through at this point, probably. We're still over 50 kilometers to go into the race, and like I said, we had the group of six chasing, the two leaders, Gilbert and Pollitt. But at 51 kilometers to go, Philippe Gilbert tried to go alone. He distanced Niels Pollitt, and I thought to myself, is this Bonen all over again? We remember the attack in 2012 when Bonen went from exactly that moment and actually won solo. Gilbert has done it before at the Tour of Flanders. When he won that edition, he attacked with even more kilometers to go and went solo. But yeah, Paris-Roubaix is another different story. And for quite a moment, he was alone in the lead. Niels Pollitt got absorbed by Sagan, Van Aert, Van Marke, Lampard, and they were joined by Pollitt. So Sarrault and Laporte, they got dropped, and we had five guys left chasing Gilbert, which they did, and they actually caught him a few kilometers afterwards. So now they were six leaders, and they had a gap of around 40 seconds. So yeah, I was correct what I said at the beginning. It took over 200 kilometers for a group of attackers to get a gap of more than 30 seconds. That just doesn't happen. In a race of 260 kilometers and only 50 to go, and that is the first time attackers have a lead of more than 30 seconds. Crazy stuff. So that meant we had 6 riders in front entering the Mons-Pével, one of the few 5-star sectors, one of the most important sectors in the race, and only 40 kilometers to go. We saw a moment where I realized just how strong the Koenig Quickstep is, because they had 2 out of the 6 guys in the lead and also 2 riders behind. And when it was finally the moment when Greg Van Avermaet decided, okay, I have to chase them down, I have to attack now, he was just shut down by Seneschal and Stieber immediately. So basically, out of the top 10 strongest riders of the day, they had 4 of them. That is really, really amazing stuff, that Lefebvre was able to build a squad containing so many great riders on cobblestone, bring them all together into one team, and they actually ride for one another. There is not one captain, there is no bad feelings if you have to work for someone else. They all work together, and exactly at that moment, with 42 kilometers to go, that was probably the best picture of the race, where I really saw exactly that. Then with 40 kilometers to go, the gap was extended to a minute because the peloton just did not have the manpower to chase them down. It was basically only Stein Vandenberg and a few riders of Française des Jeux, and they were not able to catch those 6 guys. And at this moment, I don't want to toot into my own horn, but I mentioned all 6 riders that were in the front in my preview video for Paris-Roubaix. All 6 of them were on the list of favorites. Even though my list of favorites was long, I mentioned all of them. And that move stayed. Like I said, the group behind did not have the manpower willing to do the chasing. Yes, there were more riders, but not enough riders willing to chase. There were probably 3 riders chasing against 6 riders going hard on the front. And so that continued for quite a few kilometers. The next few kilometers were a little bit calmer. For about 20 kilometers, we had no attacks. The gap stayed about the same. It was, like I said, about 40 seconds to a minute between that margin. And with 23 kilometers, the favorites of 6 started to attack each other. It began with Philippe Gilbert, who was first followed by Sagan and Pollitt. And then with 21 kilometers to go, Lampert left Van Marke and Van Aert behind because he was way stronger than these 2, left them behind, joined them, and with 18 kilometers to go, all 5 were back together again because one rider was not able to follow anymore. He had to pay for his efforts before, and that was Wout van Aert. He was done with 18 kilometers to go, and that is exactly, if you look at it, he was chasing for 20 kilometers he was chasing for 20 kilometers, and then 18 kilometers before the finish line, he was dead. So if not for the puncture and if not for the crash, those are the exact 20 kilometers that were missing until the finish line for Wout van Aert. But yeah, he was done, and we were shortly before the Carrefour de l'Arbre with 18 kilometers to go, and Lampard was at that moment pushing the pace of that group, but he could not drop anyone. It looked like he was trying in Cancellara style to ride everyone off his back. It was not really an acceleration, not an attack, but he was setting the tempo on the front of the group, but to no avail. So his teammate Gilbert once again tried his luck. This time it was only Sagan who could follow him. Pollitt and Van Marke, they took quite a while to rejoin him, took quite a few meters. They were not immediately on their wheel, but yeah, they rejoined. Then Lampard was distanced for a few seconds, but also he got back in. It was really like a yo-yo. One rider attacks, one rider is a little bit behind, another attacks, another rider is a little bit behind. And that game continued for about 5 kilometers or so. And then finally, with 14 kilometers to go, we had the decisive attack of this race. Very late into Paris-Roubaix, but it was again German rider Nils Pollitt who went just like in the feed zone. And just like at that moment, it was Gilbert who was the only one able to follow him. Sagan did not have the legs, Van Marke did not have the legs, and Lampard was last in that group. He was just waiting and saving his legs for the eventual, or possibly for the possibility of catching that break. But yeah, the decisive move, once again, the two probably strongest riders in the race, and they quickly got a gap of 20 seconds, then 40 seconds by 7 kilometers to go. And you could see on the television screen that Sagan was just done. He couldn't do anything anymore. And also Van Marke was tired, so these two were dropped by Lampard with 5 kilometers to go. And then we knew, okay, De Koning once again will have two guys on the podium. Question is, who will win? Will it be one of the De Koning riders, because Gilbert in the front and Lampard chasing, or will it be German rider Nils Pollitt of Katusha Alpecin? And because Lampard was behind, Gilbert did the perfect move with 2 kilometers to go and said to Pollitt, okay, you lead us into the velodrome. I won't work anymore. I have a guy behind. If he catches us, we are 2 against 1. You don't want that. So you'll have to do the chasing. And that was a really bad moment for Nils Pollitt, because in a 2-up sprint, if you have to ride on the front the whole time, like the rider behind can choose when he attacks. And Gilbert did just that with about 250 meters to go. He went past Pollitt on the inside, sprinted to victory, his 5th monument in total, his 4th different in his career. He is now only missing Sanremo. Gilbert, at the age of 36, has done it again. He has won another monument, another season where he has won at least one race. And this was a special one in more ways than that, because it was actually the 700th win of the Koenig Quickstep in all the variations of that team in total. So 700 wins. And this one was also the 23rd of the season, which meant once again the fight against Astana for the crown, most wins in a season, continues. They are again level, because Astana got the overall victory of Itzula yesterday. Now Gilbert takes another monument. We have one team who takes all the general classification victories. We have one team who wins every one-day race. I will probably do a video soon about these two teams and their fight for all these victories, because actually their style is pretty similar how they win these races. Different kind of races, but the approach is very similar. Lampard, like I said, was able to finish 3rd. So they had 2 guys on the podium once again. And in the sprint for 4th place, Van Marke was able to outsprint Peter Sagan, and that alone tells you how done Sagan was. He was not able to respond when Van Marke started his sprint. He was just barely getting to the finish line, and it's been a while since I've seen Peter Sagan blow up that badly in a race. Yes, this is a monument. Yes, this is draining for every rider, but usually Peter Sagan is not one who blows up like that. And questions over his form remain. We said before that yes, his goal was to hold his form until Liège, but he's not even at the level where he can hold anything. So that plan obviously backfired this season. I don't know if it was the wrong approach in general or if he just well, I don't know what it was, but Peter Sagan, his spring campaign this season was not up to the results he had in previous years. And the only thing I can explain it with is his different approach. Because, like we said, he started slow, did not as many races in February like he did in previous years, because we all expected him not to finish his spring campaign at the beginning of April, but at the end of April. So a few weeks later, if you want to be at 100% a few weeks later, you also have to start a few weeks later. That did not pay off. And yeah, now it remains to be seen if he can hit that form until the Ardennes. If he finally does, because the results have gone slightly upwards, then he could be a danger man for Amstel, but he could also be a danger man for Liège-Bastogne-Liège, which is back to a flat finish. So we'll have to see. But for now, I'm out.